Dr. Marcus Rivera wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished treating another miner's broken arm. The medical bay on Frontier Station Omega was quiet again, just the soft hum of machines and the distant sounds of station life beyond the walls. Marcus had been working here for 3 years now, and he liked the steady routine. Colonists came in with cuts and burns. Traders needed shots for alien diseases. Sometimes a pilot would break a rib in a bad landing. Nothing too exciting, which was exactly how Marcus preferred it. He was cleaning his surgical tools when the emergency alarm started blaring throughout the station. The red lights flashed, and the mechanical voice announced something that made, "Marcus, freeze! Incoming vessel requesting emergency medical assistance. Vorthon Empire ship approaching docking bay 7. Marcus dropped his cleaning cloth. Vorthons! Everyone in the galaxy knew about Vorthons. They were 8 feet tall, covered in black scales, and had claws that could slice through metal. They conquered planets and crushed anyone who stood in their way. Marcus had seen pictures in medical journals, but he never thought he would actually meet one. Commander Janet Hayes' voice crackled over the communication system. "All personnel stay clear of docking bay 7. Dr. Rivera, report to the command. Center immediately." Marcus ran through the corridors, passing worried faces of station workers. Nobody talked about Vorthans in friendly ways. They were the monsters that parents used to scare children. They were the reason merchant ships traveled in groups and carried heavy weapons. The command center was buzzing with activity. Commander Hayes stood at the main display, watching a massive black ship approach the station. The vessel was 3 times larger than any ship Marcus had ever seen, covered with weapon ports and armor plating. "Marcus, thank God you are here," Hayes said without looking away from the screen. "The Vorthons are requesting emergency medical assistance. They have wounded aboard." "Vorthons asking for help?" Marcus asked. "That does not sound right." Security Chief Tom Bradley stepped forward, his hand resting on his weapon. "It could be a trick. Vorthons do not ask for help. They take what they want." Hayes shook her head. "I already checked with command. Galactic medical law says we have to provide aid to anyone who requests it. Even Vorthans." The communication panel lit up, and a deep, growling voice filled the room. The words were in broken standard, the common language used between species. "Human station. This is General Thane, Black Claw of the Vorthon Third Fleet. We have wounded who will die without medical help. We request permission to dock." Hayes took a deep breath before responding. "General Blackclaw, this is Commander Hayes. We will provide medical assistance as required by galactic law. You may dock at Bay 7, but only medical personnel and patients are allowed aboard this station." There was a long pause before the Vorthon general replied. "Understood, human commander. We bring only wounded and necessary guards. Your healer will treat our injured." Marcus felt his stomach twist. My healer. That meant him. He was about to become the first human doctor to treat a Vorthan patient. 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in the docking bay wearing his medical coat and carrying his emergency kit. Hayes and Bradley flanked him, both looking nervous. The airlock opened with a loud hiss, and Marcus saw his first living Vorthan. General Thane Blackclaw was even more terrifying in person than Marcus had imagined. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body covered in obsidian black scales that reflected the station lights. His eyes glowed like red coals in a fire, and when he opened his mouth to speak, Marcus could see rows of sharp teeth. Massive. Claws extended from his fingers, and his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Human healer," Thane said, looking down at Marcus. "You will treat our wounded warrior. He took enemy fire protecting our supply convoy. Our medical officer died in the same attack." Behind Thane came 2 more Vorthons carrying a makeshift stretcher. The injured Vorthon was unconscious, his breathing shallow and labored. Dark blue blood stained his scales and pooled beneath him on the stretcher. "Follow me to the medical bay," Marcus said, surprised that his voice sounded steady. The group moved through the station corridors. Every person they passed stopped and stared, pressing themselves against the walls to let the Vorthons pass. Children hid behind their parents. Marcus could feel the fear in the air like electricity before a storm. In the medical bay, Marcus helped transfer the injured Vorthan onto his largest examination table. The table creaked under the weight. Marcus had treated many alien species before, but never anything this large or dangerous looking. "What is his name?" Marcus asked as he began his initial examination. "Lieutenant Kane Steelridge," Thane replied. "He is young but brave. He saved many lives today." Marcus used his medical scanner to examine Kane's injuries. The readings were confusing at first because Vorthan biology was so different from human anatomy. Kane had internal bleeding in what Marcus guessed was his equivalent of a liver, plus several broken ribs that had punctured a lung. "He needs surgery immediately," Marcus told Thane. "I can save him, but I need to operate right away." Thane's glowing eyes studied Marcus carefully. "You would help a Vorthan warrior? Your people fear us." Marcus looked up from his patient. I'm a doctor. My job is to save lives, not to judge who deserves saving. Do I have your permission to operate?" For the first time, something that might have been respect flickered in Thane's eyes. "You may proceed, human healer." The surgery took 4 hours. Marcus had to adapt everything he knew about emergency medicine to work with Vorthan anatomy. Their bones were denser than human bones. Their blood carried oxygen differently. Their organs were arranged in unfamiliar patterns. But as Marcus worked, he began to see similarities too. Kane's heart pumped blood just like a human heart. His nervous system responded to the same types of medications. His body fought to heal, itself with the same determination Marcus had seen in human patients. General Thane watched the entire operation through the medical bay's viewing window. He stood perfectly still, his red eyes never leaving Marcus's work. Other Vorthans waited in the corridor outside, their clawed hands clasped behind their backs in military formation. When Marcus finally finished the surgery, he was exhausted. His hands shook from the strain of operating for so long. But Kane's vital signs were stable, and the bleeding had stopped. Marcus stepped out of the surgical area to find Thane waiting for him. The massive alien general studied Marcus's tired face for a long moment. "Will he live?" Thane asked. "Yes," Marcus replied. "The surgery was successful. He will need time to heal, but he should make a full recovery." Thane nodded slowly. It was a small gesture, but coming from the most feared alien in the galaxy, it felt like the highest praise Marcus had ever received. "You have skill, human healer," Thane said. "And honor. This will not be forgotten." As the Vorthan general turned to leave, Marcus realized something important had just happened. He had looked beyond the fearsome appearance and the terrible reputation to see what really mattered, a patient who needed help. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first step toward something bigger than either species had imagined. 3 days passed before Lieutenant Kane Steelridge opened his glowing red eyes. Marcus was checking his morning patients when the medical sensor started beeping frantically from the isolation room where Kane was recovering. Marcus rushed into the room to find Kane sitting up on the reinforced medical bed, his massive clawed hands gripping the side rails so tightly that the metal was bending. The Vorthan warrior was looking around wildly, his eyes blazing with confusion and anger. "Easy there," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm and steady. "You are safe. You are on Frontier Station Omega. I am Dr. Marcus Rivera. I performed surgery to save your life." Kane's head snapped toward Marcus, and the alien warrior bared his sharp teeth in what looked like a snarl. He tried to stand up, but his legs buckled, and he collapsed back onto the bed with a grunt of pain. "Where are my weapons?" Kane demanded, in heavily accented standard. "Where is my unit? What have you done to me, soft skin?" Marcus had expected this reaction. He had read what little information existed about Vorthon culture, and he knew that warriors like Kane would see being helpless as deeply shameful. The fact that he had been unconscious and vulnerable for 3 days would be hard for any Vorthon to accept. "Your weapons are safe with General Thane," Marcus explained. "Your unit is aboard your ship. I saved your life with surgery. You had internal bleeding and punctured organs." Kane struggled to process this information. He looked down at his bandaged torso, then back at Marcus. "A human healed me? That is not possible. Humans are weak creatures." "Weak creatures who know how to stop bleeding and repair damaged organs," Marcus replied without taking offense. "Would you prefer to have died with honor instead of living with shame?" The blunt question seemed to surprise Kane. Most species spoke carefully around Vorthons, afraid of making them angry. But Marcus had learned something during the surgery. Vorthons respected direct honesty more than polite fear. Kane was quiet for several minutes, thinking about Marcus's words. Finally, he spoke again. "My general allowed a human to cut me open?" "Your general wanted you to live," Marcus said. "He stood outside this room for 4 hours watching me operate. He did not leave until I told him you would survive." This information seemed to shock Kane even more than waking up in a human medical facility. In Vorthan culture, generals did not waste time worrying about individual soldiers. The fact that Thane had stayed showed how much he valued Kane's life. Dr. Lisa Chen entered the room carrying a food tray. She was Marcus's closest friend on the station and his most skilled assistant. Lisa had volunteered to help care for Kane despite her obvious nervousness around the massive alien. "Time for your medicine and some food," she said, setting the tray on a side table. Kane looked at the human food with suspicion. "I do not eat soft-skinned food. It will make me weak." Marcus sighed. This was going to be more difficult than treating Kane's physical injuries. Vorthan pride was clearly going to be the biggest obstacle to his recovery. "Fine," Marcus said. "Do not eat. Do not take medicine. Get weak and die from infection. I am sure General Thane will be very impressed when he has to carry your corpse. Back to your ship." Kane's eyes flared with anger, but then he seemed to understand what Marcus was doing. The human was challenging his pride in a different way, suggesting that refusing treatment was actually the weak choice. "You are clever." "Human healer," Kane said after a moment. "You try to trick me into accepting help." "I am trying to keep you alive," Marcus replied. "Everything else is up to you." Kane reached for the medicine cup and drank its contents without further complaint. The food was harder for him to manage. His clawed hands were not designed for human utensils, and his pride would not let him ask for help. Marcus watched Kane struggle for a few minutes, then quietly left the room. He returned with a set of modified eating tools he had designed using the station's fabricator. The handles were larger and had grooves for claws, and the knife was stronger to cut through tougher alien food. "These might work better," Marcus said, placing the tools next to Kane's tray. Kane examined the modified utensils with surprise. "You made these for me?" "I make tools for all my patients based on their needs," Marcus replied. "Healing is not just about surgery. It is about helping patients recover in every way possible." Over the next few days, Marcus visited Kane regularly to check his healing progress. Each visit taught him more about Vorthon biology and culture. He learned that Vorthons healed faster than humans in some ways, but were more vulnerable to certain types of infection. Marcus also discovered that Kane was not just a simple warrior. The young Vorthon had studied engineering before joining the military, and he was curious about how human medical technology worked. Kane asked detailed questions about the surgical procedures Marcus had used to save his life. "Your species is strange," Kane told Marcus during one visit. "You are small and soft, but you create machines that can see inside bodies and repair damage that would kill a Vorthan healer." "Every species has different strengths," Marcus replied. Vorthans are strong and brave. Humans are innovative and persistent. Maybe both qualities are needed to solve difficult problems. Dr. Lisa Chen had been watching these conversations with growing interest. She told Marcus privately that she had never seen an alien patient adapt to human medical care so quickly. "He actually seems to like talking to you," she said. "Most aliens just want to get treatment and leave as fast as possible." Security Chief Tom Bradley was less impressed with Kane's progress. He visited the medical bay regularly to check on the Vorthan patient, always with his hand near his weapon. "I do not trust him," Bradley told Marcus. "Vorthans are dangerous. Just because this one seems friendly does not mean he will not turn violent." Marcus understood Bradley's concerns, but he was beginning to see a different side of Vorthan nature. Kane was proud and fierce, but he was also honorable and intelligent. He followed the medical bay rules without complaint and never threatened anyone, even when he was clearly frustrated or in pain. On Kane's final day of recovery, something unexpected happened. The young Vorthan warrior asked Marcus to teach him basic human medical techniques. "If our healer had known what you know, perhaps he would not have died in battle," Kane explained. "I want to learn how to help injured warriors until proper medical aid arrives." Marcus spent 2 hours showing Kane how to stop bleeding, clean wounds, and recognize signs of serious internal injury. Kane learned quickly, his engineering background helping him understand the mechanical aspects of trauma medicine. When General Thane arrived to collect his recovered warrior, he found Kane and Marcus discussing the best ways to treat battlefield injuries. The general watched this interaction with great interest. Kane stood up when he saw his commander, moving smoothly without any sign of the injuries that had nearly killed him a week earlier. He pressed his right fist to his chest in a formal military salute. "General, I am ready to return to duty," Kane reported. Thane nodded, but his glowing red eyes remained focused on Marcus. "You have done well, human healer. Lieutenant Steelridge looks strong and healthy." Kane turned to Marcus and performed a different gesture. He pressed both fists to his chest and bowed his head slightly. Marcus did not understand what it meant, but he could see that it was significant. "Thank you, Dr. Marcus Rivera," Kane said formally. "I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid. Your skill and honor will not be forgotten." As the two Vorthans prepared to leave, General Thane approached. "Marcus, one more time." The massive alien commander studied the human doctor with those glowing eyes that had terrified entire star systems. "My warriors will remember what happened here," Thane said quietly. "Word will spread among the clans that there is a human healer who treats Vorthans with skill and respect." Marcus watched the two aliens walk toward the docking bay, Kane moving, with the fluid grace of a fully recovered warrior. He had saved a life and maybe learned something important about building bridges between species. But he had no idea that this was just the beginning of something much larger than anyone could have imagined. 6 months passed quietly on Frontier Station Omega. Marcus returned to his normal routine of treating miners, traders, and colonists. He had almost started to believe that his encounter with the Vorthans was a one-time event when the emergency alarms sounded again. This time, it was different. The approaching ship was not a military vessel, but a civilian transport, battered and smoking from engine damage. Commander Hayes's voice echoed through the station. "Dr. Rivera to Docking Bay 4. We have incoming wounded from a mining accident." Marcus grabbed his emergency kit and ran to the docking bay. He expected to find human miners or maybe some of the other common alien species that worked in the asteroid fields. What he found instead made him stop in surprise. The airlock opened to reveal 3 Vorthans, but these were not soldiers. They wore mining equipment instead of military armor, and their scales were covered with rock dust and chemical burns. The largest Vorthan stepped forward, his red eyes meeting Marcus's gaze. "You are the human healer Marcus Rivera," the alien said. It was not a question. "Yes, I am Dr. Rivera," Marcus replied. "You have wounded that need treatment?" The Vorthan nodded gravely. "I am Captain Rex Ironhide of the Red Mountain clan." We have 7 injured workers from an explosion at asteroid mining station Beta 7. We were told that you can heal Vorthans without bringing shame to our warriors. Marcus felt a chill of understanding. Word had indeed spread among the Vorthan clans, just as General Thane had predicted. Somehow, news of Cain Steelridge's successful treatment had traveled through their society. "How did you hear about me?" Marcus asked as he followed the Vorthans to their transport ship. "Lieutenant Steelridge spoke of your skill throughout our fleet," Rex explained. "He said you treated him with honor and saved his life when our own healers could not." The story reached many clans. Inside the transport ship, Marcus found a scene of controlled chaos. 7 Vorthans lay on makeshift stretchers, their injuries ranging from severe burns to crushing wounds from falling rocks. The air smelled of burned metal and alien blood. Marcus quickly assessed the wounded. 2 had radiation poisoning from exposure to exotic minerals. 3 suffered from chemical burns where mining acids had eaten through their protective scales. 1 had multiple broken bones from a rock fall, and the last had severe internal injuries similar to what Cain had experienced. "I need to get them to my medical bay immediately," Marcus told Rex. "Some of these injuries are very serious." Dr. Lisa, Chen, and Dr. Rachel Foster were waiting in the medical bay when Marcus arrived with the wounded Vorthans. Rachel was a new addition to the station crew, a xenobiologist who had specifically requested assignment to Omega after hearing about Marcus's work with Vorthan patients. "My God," Rachel whispered as she saw the injured aliens being carried in. "I have read about Vorthans, but seeing them in person is incredible." "Save the scientific excitement for later," Marcus said firmly. "Right now, they are just patients who need help." The next 12 hours tested every skill Marcus had developed over his years as a trauma surgeon. Treating 1 Vorthan had been difficult enough, but managing 7 critically injured patients of an alien species pushed him to his limits. Dr. Foster proved invaluable, using her knowledge of xenobiology to help Marcus understand how the different chemicals and radiation types affected Vorthan physiology. Dr. Chen managed the complex life support systems needed to keep multiple large alien patients stable. The most challenging case was a young Vorthan named Blake Stormwind, who had been closest to the mining explosion. His scales were burned away in patches, exposing sensitive tissue underneath. Worse, the exotic radiation had damaged his scale regeneration system, which meant his natural healing would not work properly. "In humans, we would use synthetic skin grafts," Marcus explained to Rachel as they worked on Blake. "But Vorthan scales are not just protection, they are part of their temperature regulation and immune system. What if we could stimulate the remaining healthy scale cells to reproduce faster?" Rachel suggested. "I have some experimental growth factors that might work." It was a risky idea, but Blake was dying. Marcus decided to try Rachel's approach. Working together, they applied the growth factors to the damaged areas and waited to see if Blake's body would respond. Captain Rex Ironhide watched the entire process from the observation area. Unlike General Thane's military stoicism, Rex showed obvious concern for his injured clan members. He paced back and forth, his claws clicking against the floor. "Your healers work very hard," Rex told Marcus during a brief break. "Among our people, injured miners are often left to heal or die on their own. Weakness in the mines means death. For the entire clan, every life has value," Marcus replied. "Injured people are not weak, they are just people who need help." This philosophy seemed to surprise Rex. In Vorthan culture, showing weakness could result in being abandoned by the clan. The idea that vulnerability might be met with compassion instead of rejection was foreign to their way of thinking. The first patient to recover fully was Jake Ironshield, one of Rex's younger clan members who had suffered only minor chemical burns. As Marcus treated Jake's wounds, the young Vorthan asked many questions about human medical techniques. "Why do you use machines to see inside bodies?" Jake asked, pointing to the medical scanners. "Vorthan healers use only their claws and knowledge. Marcus showed Jake the scanner displays, explaining how the technology could reveal injuries that were impossible to see from the outside. Jake was fascinated, his engineering mind appreciating the precision of human medical equipment. "Your species builds amazing tools," Jake said, "but you are still small and soft. How do you survive in a dangerous galaxy?" "We survive by working together and helping each other," Marcus replied. "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help when you need it." Over the following days, more Vorthans recovered and began to interact with the human medical staff. Dr. Foster was thrilled to have the opportunity to study Vorthan biology up close, and she worked with the patients to document their unique physiological traits. The most remarkable recovery was Blake Stormwind, whose damaged scales began to regenerate after Rachel's experimental treatment. The new scales grew back stronger and more resistant to chemical damage than the originals. "You have done something that our best healers could not," Rex told Marcus as Blake's recovery progressed. "You have improved upon what nature gave us." Word of Blake's treatment spread quickly among the Vorthan patients. They began to see human medicine not as a shameful necessity, but as a powerful tool that could enhance their natural abilities. When it came time for the mining clan to leave, Rex approached Marcus with a proposal that surprised everyone. "Dr. Rivera, my clan would like to establish a permanent medical exchange with your station," Rex said formally. "We will provide rare minerals from our mining operations in exchange for access to human medical care for our workers." Commander Hayes, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped forward with interest. The rare minerals that Vorthan's mined were extremely valuable and could fund major improvements to the station. "That is an interesting proposal, Captain Ironhide," Hayes said. "What exactly are you offering?" Rex pulled out a small container filled with crystals that glowed with their own inner light. "Quantum stabilizer crystals from the Forbidden Nebula. Our clans are the only ones who can mine them safely." Dr. Foster's eyes widened. Quantum stabilizer crystals were worth more than the entire station. They were used in the most advanced medical equipment and faster-than-light communication systems. "In exchange," Rex continued, "we ask that Dr. Rivera train some of our clan members in basic human medical techniques, and we want to bring our seriously injured here for treatment." Marcus looked at Commander Hayes, who nodded slowly. "This arrangement could benefit both species significantly." "I accept your proposal," Marcus said. "But I have one condition. Any Vorthan who comes here for medical care will be treated with the same respect and skill, regardless of which clan they belong to." Rex pressed his fist to his chest in the gesture Marcus had learned meant agreement and honor. "You have my word, human healer. The Red Mountain clan will spread word of your skill and honor to other clans throughout Vorthan space." As the mining transport prepared to depart, Jake Ironshield approached Marcus one final time. The young Vorthan carried a small device that he had built during his recovery. "This is a translation unit," Jake explained. "It will help you communicate with other clans who may not speak standard as well as we do. Consider it a gift from someone whose life you saved." Marcus accepted the device gratefully. He had a feeling he was going to need it very soon. If word continued to spread among the Vorthan clans, Frontier Station Omega might become busier than anyone had ever imagined. Standing in the docking bay and watching the Vorthan transport disappear into space, Marcus realized that his quiet life as a frontier doctor was changing forever. He was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history, a human physician trusted by the most feared alien species in known space. 2 months after the mining clan incident, Marcus was reviewing medical data when the most urgent emergency call he had ever received came through the station communication system. Commander Hayes' voice was tight with worry. "Marcus, get to the command center now. We have an incoming Priority 1 medical emergency." Marcus ran through the corridors, his mind racing through possibilities. Priority 1 meant life or death. No time to waste. When he reached the command center, he found Hayes staring at a massive Vorthan warship approaching the station at dangerous speeds. "What is the situation?" Marcus asked. General Thane Blackclaw is aboard that ship, Hayes replied grimly. He is critically wounded and requesting immediate medical assistance. The message came directly from the Vorthan High Command. Marcus felt his stomach drop. General Thane was not just any Vorthan. He was their most famous military leader, the Alien, who had conquered 12 star systems and defeated every enemy he had ever faced. If Thane was wounded badly enough to seek human medical help, the injury must be extremely serious. The warship docked with violent precision, and the airlock opened immediately. Marcus was waiting in the docking bay with a full medical team when they brought Thane out on a hover stretcher designed for his massive frame. The sight of the injured general shocked everyone present. Thane's obsidian scales were cracked and bleeding, his breathing was labored, and his usually bright red eyes were dim with pain. A female Vorthon in medical robes followed the stretcher closely. "I am healer Nyx Stormscale, General Thane's personal physician," she announced in clear standard. "The general was injured in battle with pirate raiders who attacked our mining convoy. A plasma blast struck his spinal column." Marcus immediately understood the severity. Spinal injuries were complex and dangerous in any species, but Vorthon, anatomy made them even more challenging. Their nervous system was integrated with their scale regeneration network in ways that human medicine had never dealt with. "How long ago did the injury occur?" Marcus asked as they rushed toward the medical bay. 6 hours, Nyx replied. "I stabilized him for transport, but the damage is beyond my skills. Lieutenant Steelridge told us that you saved his life when our healers could not. The general needs that same miracle." In the medical bay, Marcus began his examination while Nyx provided detailed information about Vorthon's spinal anatomy. The damage was worse than anything Marcus had ever seen. The plasma blast had not only damaged Thane's spine, but had also disrupted the neural pathways that controlled his scale regeneration and temperature regulation. "Dr. Foster, I need you here immediately," Marcus called over the communication system. "And get Dr. Chen to prepare the advanced surgical suite." Rachel Foster arrived within minutes, her xenobiology expertise crucial for understanding the complex injury. Dr. Chen began setting up the surgical equipment while Marcus and Nyx studied the scan results. The traditional approach would be to stabilize the damaged vertebrae and hope for partial recovery, Marcus explained to Nyx. But that would leave the general paralyzed from the waist down. That would end his military career and bring shame to his entire clan, Nyx said quietly. For a warrior like General Thane, that might be worse than death. Marcus stared at the scans, his mind working through possibilities. There was another option, an experimental technique he had read about but never attempted. It was extremely risky and could either fully restore Thane's mobility or kill him outright. "There is something else we could try," Marcus said slowly, "but it is very dangerous. We would need to completely reconstruct the damaged neural pathways and reconnect them to his scale regeneration system." Nyx studied the proposed surgical plan with growing amazement. This technique, it could actually improve his nervous system beyond its original capacity. But the risk of failure is enormous. "What does the general want us to do?" Marcus asked. Nyx looked down at the unconscious Thane, then back at Marcus. "He said to tell you that he trusts your judgment completely. Whatever decision you make, he will accept the consequences." Marcus felt the weight of that trust. The most feared military leader in Vorthon space was putting his life entirely in human hands. The decision would affect not just Thane, but the relationship between their species. "We try the experimental procedure," Marcus decided. "If we are going to save him, we save him completely." The surgery began immediately and lasted 14 hours. Marcus, Rachel, and Lisa worked together with Nyx, combining human surgical techniques with Vorthan medical knowledge. They carefully removed damaged tissue, reconstructed broken neural pathways, and painstakingly reconnected the complex network that controlled Thane's entire nervous system. The most difficult part came when they had to restart Thane's scale regeneration system. This biological process was unique to Vorthons and poorly understood by human science. Marcus had to trust Nix's expertise completely as they worked to re-establish the neural connections. "Vital signs are stabilizing," Dr. Chen reported as they completed the final procedures. "Neural activity is returning to normal patterns." Marcus stepped back from the surgical table, exhausted beyond anything he had ever experienced. The surgery had pushed every skill he possessed to its absolute limit. Now they could only wait to see if Thane would recover. 3 days later, General Thane Blackclaw opened his glowing red eyes and immediately tried to sit up. Marcus, who had been monitoring him constantly, quickly moved to help. "Easy, General," Marcus said. "You have been unconscious for 3 days. How do you feel?" Thane tested his movement carefully, flexing his claws and rolling his shoulders. "I feel strong," he said with surprise. "Stronger than before the injury. What did you do to me, human healer?" "We rebuilt your nervous system using an experimental technique," Marcus explained. "The new neural pathways should be more efficient than your original ones." Over the following days, it became clear that the surgery had been more successful than anyone had dared hope. Not only had Thane's mobility been completely restored, but his reflexes and coordination had actually improved beyond their previous levels. "You have given me abilities I never possessed before," Thane told Marcus during one of his recovery sessions. "My clan owes you a debt that can never be repaid." During his recovery, Thane began sharing stories of Vorthan history and culture. With Marcus, the doctor learned that Vorthans had not always been warriors. Their homeworld was harsh and dangerous, filled with predators and natural disasters that forced them to become strong fighters simply to survive. "Other species see only our weapons and our conquests," Thane explained. "They do not understand that we fight because we must, not because we enjoy violence. Our fearsome reputation protects us from those who would prey upon smaller, weaker civilizations." Marcus began to understand that Vorthan aggression was actually a form of protection, both for themselves and for other species who might become targets if the Vorthans appeared vulnerable. "Your people have shown us something new," Thane continued. "You have proven that strength can come from healing as well as from fighting. This changes how we see both ourselves and other species." When Thane finally recovered enough to return to duty, he made an announcement that surprised everyone. He declared that Dr. Marcus Rivera was now under the official protection of the Vortan Empire and that any harm done to the human healer would be considered an act of war against all Vorthon clans. "You have saved the lives of our warriors and our workers," Thane announced formally. "You have treated us with honor and skill when we had nowhere else to turn. From this day forward, you are considered a friend of the Vorthan people." As Marcus watched the general prepare to leave, he realized that something fundamental had changed. He was no longer just a frontier doctor treating unusual patients. He had become a bridge between species, someone who could help others see past fear and prejudice to find common ground. The implications of what had happened were only beginning to become clear, but Marcus knew that his life would never be the same again. The weeks following General Thane's recovery brought changes to Frontier Station Omega that nobody could have predicted. Vorthon ships began arriving regularly, but not all of them carried wounded patients. Some came with healthy crew members, who were simply curious about the humans who had earned their general's respect. Marcus found himself in the unusual position of hosting cultural exchange meetings in his medical bay. Young Vorthan warriors wanted to learn about human medicine, while human scientists were eager to study Vorthan biology and technology. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Rachel Foster told Marcus as they watched a group of Vorthan engineers examining human medical equipment. "No other species has ever established this kind of relationship with the Vorthons. Most aliens are too afraid to even communicate with them." Commander Hayes was dealing with her own set of new challenges. The station had become an unofficial meeting place between humans and Vorthons, which meant she frequently hosted diplomatic discussions that were far beyond her normal duties. The colonial administration wants to send an official diplomat, Hayes told Marcus during one of their daily briefings. They are calling what is happening here the most important first contact event in recent history. Marcus was working with healer Nick Stormscale to document their collaborative surgical techniques when Security Chief Tom Bradley brought him disturbing news. Dr. Rivera, we have received reports from other stations in this sector, Bradley said. Pirate activity has dropped to almost zero in the past month. Word has gotten out that the Vorthons consider you under their protection, and that extends to this entire station. This information made Marcus realize how much his relationship with the Vorthons had affected the entire region. Pirates and raiders, who had once terrorized merchant ships, now avoided the area completely, knowing that attacking anything near Frontier Station Omega would bring the wrath of the Vorthan fleet. The most significant development came when Captain Kane Steelridge returned to the station, now promoted and leading a delegation of young Vorthan warriors. Kane had requested permission to study human military tactics and medical procedures as part of an official exchange program. Dr. Rivera, Kane said when they met in the medical bay, I have told many of my fellow warriors about what I learned. Here, they want to understand how humans can be both healers and fighters. Marcus introduced Kane to Security Chief Bradley, who was initially suspicious but gradually became impressed with Vorthan military discipline and honor. The two began sharing tactical knowledge, leading to discussions about joint training exercises. Your warriors are different from what I expected, Bradley told Marcus privately. They are professional soldiers, not mindless killers. I think we could learn from each other. Dr. Foster made a breakthrough in her research when she discovered that Vorthan scale regeneration could be enhanced using human biotechnology. Working with Nick's storm scale, she developed treatments that could help Vorthans recover from injuries that had previously been considered permanent disabilities. This could revolutionize medical care for both our species, Foster explained to Marcus. Vorthan regenerative abilities combined with human medical technology could create healing methods that neither species could achieve alone. The success of these collaborations attracted attention from across the galaxy. The Galactic Medical Council sent representatives to observe the human Vorthon medical exchange, while other alien species began requesting similar partnerships. Marcus found himself facing a personal crisis when he received an offer from Earth's most prestigious medical research institute. The position would allow him to influence interspecies medicine on a galactic scale and advance his career beyond anything he had ever imagined. You should take it, Dr. Chen encouraged him during a quiet moment in the medical bay. Think about how much good you could do if you had access to Earth's resources and research facilities. Dr. Foster disagreed. What you have built here is just the beginning, she argued. If you leave now, you might lose the trust you have worked so hard to establish with the Vorthons. The decision became more complicated when General Thane returned with an unexpected proposal from the Vorthan High Command. The general's recovery and the success of the medical exchange program had impressed the Vorthan leadership enough to offer something unprecedented. The High Command wants to establish a permanent medical partnership with humanity, Thane announced during a formal meeting with Commander Hayes and Marcus. We propose to create the first interspecies medical research facility with Dr. Rivera as the chief medical officer. The offer was extraordinary. The Vorthons were proposing to share their most advanced medical knowledge and provide funding for a research facility that would benefit both species. It was the kind of opportunity that came once in a lifetime. What would this partnership involve? Hayes asked. Vorthon healers would come here to learn human medical techniques, Thane explained. Human doctors would study our regenerative medicine and biotechnology. Together, we would develop new treatments that could help many species throughout the Yai's galaxy. Marcus realized that this decision would affect not just his own future, but the relationship between humans and Vorthans for generations to come. The trust that had been built through individual medical cases could become the foundation for a much larger partnership. I need time to think about this, Marcus told Thane. This is a bigger responsibility than treating individual patients. Of course, Thane replied. But know that the Vorthon people have complete confidence in your abilities and judgment. Whatever you decide, we will respect your choice. That evening, Marcus walked through the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars and thinking about how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been a simple frontier doctor treating miners and traders. Now he was being offered the chance to lead the most ambitious interspecies medical project in galactic history. Dr. Chen found him there, staring out at the darkness of space. "Having second thoughts about the Earth position?" she asked. "I am thinking about what matters most," Marcus replied. "On Earth, I would be working in laboratories and lecture halls. Here, I am building something new with people who trust me to help them. The Vorthans really have changed how they see humans, have not they?" Chen observed. Marcus nodded. "But more importantly, we have changed how we see them. They are not the monsters that everyone believes them to be. They are people trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy, just like the rest of us." The next morning, Marcus made his decision. He declined the Earth position and accepted the Vorthan partnership proposal. The announcement sent ripples throughout the medical community and diplomatic circles across the galaxy. "You are sure about this?" Commander Hayes asked when Marcus filed his official response. "I am sure," Marcus replied. "What we are building here is more important than any career advancement. We are proving that different species can work together, despite their fears and prejudices." General Thane received the news with obvious satisfaction. "You have made the right choice, Dr. Rivera. This partnership will benefit not just our two species, but many others who will learn from our example." As plans began for the expanded medical facility, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. It had started with a single wounded Vorthon warrior and had grown into something that could change interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. The most feared aliens in known space had learned to trust a human physician, and that trust was becoming the foundation for a new kind of cooperation between species. Marcus knew that the real work was just beginning, but he was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. 1 year later, Frontier Station Omega had been transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. The small medical bay where Marcus had first treated Kane Steelridge was now the center of the largest interspecies medical research facility ever built. Marcus stood in the main treatment center, watching human doctors work alongside Vorthon healers to treat patients from dozens of different species. The facility had attracted medical professionals from across the galaxy, all eager to learn from the successful human-Vorthon partnership. "Dr. Rivera, we have incoming patients from the Meridian system," announced Dr. James Parker, one of the new human physicians who had joined the expanded medical team. "They are aquatic Meridians with some kind of respiratory infection." Marcus nodded and headed toward the arrival bay. The aquatic Meridians were a peaceful species that lived in underwater cities, but their breathing systems were extremely sensitive to airborne diseases. Treating them required specialized knowledge that the facility had developed through collaboration between human and Vorthon medical experts. Working with healer Nick Stormscale, Marcus had created treatment protocols for over 30 different alien species. Their research had produced medical breakthroughs that were being used throughout the galaxy, saving lives on hundreds of worlds. "The Meridian patients are responding well to the new treatment," Nix reported, as they finished examining the aquatic aliens. "The combination of human antiviral drugs and Vorthon regenerative therapy is proving very effective." The success of their medical research had attracted attention from species that had never before sought help from either humans or Vorthans. The crystalline silicates had sent representatives to study how the facility treated mineral-based life forms. Even the energy-based photons had established a communication link to share information about treating beings made of pure energy. General Thane, now serving as an unofficial ambassador for human-Vorthan relations, visited the facility regularly to observe the progress. His recovery from spinal injury had become legendary among Vorthon clans, and his endorsement of human medicine carried enormous weight throughout their empire. "Dr. Rivera," Thane said during one of his visits, "the High Command has received requests from over 50 different species asking for access to this medical facility. Your reputation as a healer has spread far beyond Vorthon space." Marcus was reviewing patient files when Dr. Rachel Foster burst into his office with urgent news. "Marcus, we have a crisis situation developing on the Vorthon colony world of New Drakmor. There is some kind of plague affecting the population, and their healers cannot stop it." The plague on New Drakmor was unlike anything the medical facility had encountered before. The disease attacked the Vorthon scale regeneration system, preventing their natural healing abilities from functioning. Thousands of Vorthons were dying, and the infection was spreading rapidly. "We need to get a medical team to New Drakmor immediately," Marcus told Commander Hayes, who was now serving as the facility's administrative director. "This could become a catastrophe for the entire Vorthon species." Within hours, Marcus was leading a joint human-Vorthon medical team aboard a fast transport ship heading for the infected colony. The team included Dr. Foster, healer Nick Stormscale, Dr. Chen, and several other specialists from the facility. The situation on New Drakmor was worse than the reports had indicated. The colonial capital was under quarantine, with medical facilities, overwhelmed by sick and dying Vorthons. The disease had mutated beyond anything in their medical databases, and traditional treatments were completely ineffective. "The infection targets the neural pathways that control scale regeneration," Dr. Foster explained, after analyzing samples of the disease. "It is like the plague was specifically designed to attack Vorthon biology." Marcus worked around the clock, with the medical team trying different treatment approaches as the death toll continued to rise. The Vorthon colonial governor, a veteran warrior named General Dale Ironforge, watched their efforts with growing desperation. "If you cannot stop this plague, our entire colony will be extinct within a month," Ironforge told Marcus grimly. "We have already lost 3,000 people, including many of our best healers." The breakthrough came when Dr. Chen discovered that the plague organism had a unique vulnerability to a combination of human synthetic antibodies and Vorthon regenerative stimulants. The treatment required precise timing and dosage, but early tests showed promising results. "It works," Nix announced after treating the first group of test patients. "The combined therapy is stopping the infection and restoring their regenerative abilities." The mass treatment of New Drakmor's population became the largest medical operation in Vorthon history. Teams of human and Vorthon medical professionals worked together to treat over 100,000 infected colonists, developing new procedures for large-scale medical intervention. The success of the plague treatment made headlines throughout the galaxy. Marcus received the Order of the Iron Scale, the highest honor the Vorthon Empire could bestow upon a non-Vorthon, in a ceremony attended by representatives from dozens of alien species. "You have not just saved our colony," General Ironforge said during the ceremony. "You have proven that cooperation between species can overcome challenges that neither could face alone." 6 months after the plague crisis, Marcus found himself facing an even greater challenge. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of similar diseases affecting other species. It appeared that the New Drakmor plague was just the first outbreak of a new category of bioweapons designed to target specific alien biologies. "Someone is deliberately creating diseases to attack different species," Dr. Foster explained during an emergency briefing. "We are dealing with biological warfare on a galactic scale." The facility on Frontier Station Omega became the center of a galaxy-wide effort to combat the bioweapon threat. Medical teams from dozens of species worked together, sharing knowledge and resources to develop defenses against the artificial plagues. Marcus coordinated research efforts while continuing to treat patients from the ongoing outbreaks. The work was exhausting and dangerous, but it was also producing unprecedented cooperation between species that had never worked together before. What you started with one injured Vorthon warrior has become something that affects the entire galaxy, Dr. Chen observed during a rare quiet moment. Marcus looked around the bustling medical facility, watching humans, Vorthons, and representatives from dozens of other species working together toward a common goal. It was exactly what he had hoped for when he first decided to treat Kane Steelridge with the same care he would give any human patient. The final breakthrough came when the combined research teams identified the source of the bioweapons, a rogue artificial intelligence that had been created by an extinct civilization. Working together, the Galactic Medical Alliance developed a comprehensive defense system that could detect and counter biological weapons before they could cause widespread damage. "We did it," Dr. Foster announced, as the last of the artificial plagues was neutralized. "The bioweapon threat has been eliminated." The victory celebration brought together representatives from over 100 different species, all of whom had contributed to the medical alliance that saved countless lives. Marcus stood before the assembled crowd, looking out at faces that represented every major civilization in known space. "When I first treated a wounded Vorthon warrior, I was just doing my job as a doctor," Marcus said in his speech. "I never imagined that one act of medical care would lead to all of this. But I have learned that healing is not just about treating individual patients. It is about building bridges between people who might otherwise never understand each other." General Thane stepped forward to present Marcus with a new honor, the title of Galactic Healer, created specifically to recognize his contribution to interspecies medicine. "You have shown us that the most powerful weapon against fear and hatred is compassion," Thane said. "The galaxy is safer because you chose to see warriors as patients and enemies as potential friends." Years later, Marcus would look back on his time at Frontier Station Omega as the most important period of his life. He had started as a simple frontier doctor and had become the architect of a new era of cooperation between species. The medical facility continued to grow, training new generations of healers who learned that medicine was about more than treating disease. They learned that every patient was an opportunity to build understanding and that healing could extend far beyond the physical. Kane Steelridge, now a high-ranking officer in the Vorthon military, often visited the facility with his own children, teaching them about the human doctor who had saved his life and changed the relationship between their species forever. "Dr. Rivera showed us that being strong does not mean being alone," Kane would tell them. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust someone different from yourself." Marcus had proven that the most feared aliens in the galaxy could learn to trust, and that trust had become the foundation for a safer, more cooperative universe. His legacy was not just the lives he had saved, but the bridges he had built between worlds that had once viewed each other as enemies. In the end, the story of the human physician who treated Vorthon warriors became a legend told throughout the galaxy, a reminder that healing, understanding, and trust could overcome even the deepest fears and prejudices between species.